Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm Shayna Cersei and I'm so excited to paint with you today. Today we are going to be doing another page in our watercolor journals and we're going to head back over to do some holiday illustrations. So today I'm going to do a quick and easy little tutorial on how to do a little Charlie Brown Christmas tree. Super easy, lots of fun, and can make a great illustration for the front of a gift tag or a homemade card, or just to paint it for fun to be in the holiday spirit. Okay, I'm just going to clean out my palette here. For those of you who are new, we'll go over supplies and materials real quick, and you can check out the description to this video for links to supplies and materials that I use in this video and on a regular basis, or that I recommend. I am using a Bao watercolor sketchbook. This paper in this sketchbook is 100% cotton. It's a 140-pound cold press, and it's a 6x9 size. I don't know if I said that already. The brushes I'm using today are Princeton Velvet Touch. I have a size 10, a size 6, and a size 4. I primarily use round brushes for most of my watercolor painting, and you can do a lot if you're learning with round brushes. I also have my Core palette, Q-O-R by Golden. That's how you spell it. And this is my 24 palette set. I also have a 12 color set mini palette that I use regularly, and both are linked in the description. Okay, so let's get started. Our Charlie Brown Christmas tree. So I drew out a rough little sketch here just so I kind of knew what I was doing to make sure it actually looked similar to the one in the show or in the cartoon. Okay, so we're going to start with our page vertically because this is going to be a little bit taller, and I'm not going to draw as much as I drew on here. I'm just going to give myself some basic guidelines. So I'm going to start at the bottom, and basically I'm going to come off to the left a little bit because the big ornament is going to be over here on this side. So I don't want to start dead in the center. And then I'm just going to come up, and you can see I'm not drawing a perfectly straight line. I'm making it a little scraggly. We'll certainly paint that in. And then this Christmas tree essentially is a branch, not an actual Christmas tree, but it's like a pine branch stuck in a holder that they put a bulb on top of that bends over. So this itself is the branch, and this is like a little piece of the twig that kind of sticks up here. And we'll draw another one down there. And at the end of all of these, I'm going to be putting little sprigs of pine. And then I'm actually going to put the bulb maybe coming off of this one right here. We'll have this one fan out a little bit. And again, we'll paint this all in. So I'm just going to do a big circular shape. And again, you can see I sketched it in. I'm not going to leave all of that pencil marking there. I'm going to draw the little cap on it. And then refine my circle a little bit more. Okay, so we have our base, and then also for the base of the little twig itself, we'll make a little cross. So basically I'm making a little triangle here on its side, and we're using foreshortening. So this piece is coming out towards us, and then the side of this one of like the wood plank, we'll see a little bit of, and we'll see crosswise this way. They'll be much longer, and then we won't really see much of what's in the back there. So that shows that it's kind of flat on the table, but you don't even really have to put much down there. You could just put like a little blob of some kind, just something for it to stand on. Okay, let me get my kneaded eraser. So kneaded erasers are fantastic to have on hand. They're super cheap. They are gum, this gray gum-like substance that you can pull apart like silly putty. I realize that not everybody knows what silly putty is, but it's like really stiff modeling clay or gum. And when we use it to erase, it's picking up the graphite on the paper versus rubbing it away or rubbing the surface of the paper away with the graphite. So it's absorbing it into it. There we go. And then you just fold it in. It's kind of self-healing. And I'm noticing here, I'm going to give myself a little ground line back here. There you go. Wasn't quite parallel. And all right, so let's get started. Colors are going to basically be brown. We'll keep it really simple and nice and loose. We're going to try to give our ornament a little bit of a sheen to it, so painting in some highlights. But we're going to be browns for the branch, as well as sap green for the pine boughs. I'm going to add actually a little phthalo blue and alizarin crimson. So those will be our 4 colors. But actually we're going to do, here we go, we're going to do some color mixing. I know y'all love and or hate that. So phthalo blue, sap green, alizarin crimson, which I am quickly running out of. And I don't think I have any more in my tube. I'm going to have to remedy that. And Payne's gray. And you're like, where's the brown? We're going to make our own brown. 2 colors that make a fabulous brown are actually sap green and alizarin crimson. So let's make some of that right now. Whoops, that's purple. We don't need purple. Not in this one. Just going to drop in a bunch of water and let that sit. Drop in a bunch of water in our alizarin crimson and let that sit. Let me just see if I don't have alizarin crimson in my other palette. It's okay. We'll make it by. All right, so for our brown, let's put in some green and alizarin crimson, and voila, brown. If you want a more reddish brown, go ahead and add a little more red, more greenish brown, a little more green. And then if you want something that is like a little cooler or bluer, you could also add some of your blue or your Payne's gray to make it darker and cool down the temperature a little bit. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to add a little more red. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm starting with my size 6 brush here, and I am just going to paint in my branches. Again, I'm not trying to be super careful. I want branches are knobby and not perfectly straight or smooth. I'm going to widen this just a little bit down here. And then as we get towards the ends, you're going to get thinner. And I don't even necessarily want to go all the way to the end on some of these, because I'm going to do that with my pine needles when I add those in. So just setting in the main branches, but some of the other sections are going to have kind of more shooting off of it. Let me pick up a little more red, a little more green. And I'm going to add some Payne's Gray. Make a really dark, rich brown. So I'm going to pick up my size 4 brush, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to add some shadows in here, just some darker sections along the edge. And we can come back in and do a little more of this later. All right, so let's go and move on to our sprigs of pine. I hope you can probably hear my poor husband coughing in the background. So sorry. He's been fighting this whatever's going around, upper respiratory infection. All right. So you can stick with your size 4, or if you have a size 2 or 1, or I recommend for beginners, a great brush to have is a script liner or a rigger. It's one of these brushes that have really long but a thin set of bristles right at the end. So why don't we just switch this out and we'll go with that one just to show you, especially if you're making long, thin pine needles. So we're going to do a cluster over here. I'm going to take some of this phthalo blue and actually mix it in. I'm going to make this a little bit cooler of a green versus the warmness of the sap green. And you know what? I'm going to put a branch, I think, over here as well. You know, we'll stick right with our rigger. Because if this was like an actual branch, like that you took off a tree, it would have them on both sides. And it's just basically bent over because of the weight of this ornament that they stuck on it. So there we go. Now I'm just going to play with my greens and just long swoops that all come from like a central cluster here. So sorry, you probably can't see that, and I cannot paint left-handed. So I'm going to swoop around here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm going to go back into a couple of these. Just add a slightly darker color. I'm going to do one like off here, and I'll connect it. You know, maybe one up here to kind of fill in that space. Again, this is supposed to be a pretty sad little branch. But it's not the size of the Christmas tree that matters, right? Isn't that what the Grinch taught us? If we have any Grinch fans out there. Put one down here, and we'll connect that by a branch too. These a little. Bring these down this way. Okay. And now let's go back to our brown. And I still have my rigger, which is fine. I'm going to connect just a few of these outliers that I added in without an actual branch connected to it. And maybe fill this one out a little bit more. And then actually going to bring, because we have to kind of come up here, so I'm going to bring a branch, I think, this way, like out and down, which is what this is actually going to be attached to. I'm going to take some of this brown gray that I have here, just connect it with a little loop there. There we go. Okay, I'm going to switch back to my size 6. Now you can, we can do this bottom thing that like the tree stand that it's sitting in. I'm actually going to make this a lighter brown. I'm going to have to clean my palette out again for our Alizarin crimson. Just adding the 2 sap green and alizarin crimson and some water to lighten it up. We're going to go a little more red. So the very top, and then these are the sides. All right, I'm going to leave this side empty until this all dries. And then I'm going to make it a darker color on the side, and I'll make these sides a little darker. Okay, so let's go into our little bulb. Little holiday bauble. And I'm actually going to switch to my, well, my water's pretty dirty. My larger brush, my size 10. I'm going to pull out alizarin crimson. I'm going to do a nice light wash of it. So I'm going to get a nice clean brush. I'm going to fill my brush with water so I have a very saturated brush. Swoop in here. And basically I'm just going to do a nice wash of the whole thing. In this light pinky red color. I'm going to pull out a little color right there. Oh, I got some kind of black or brown on my brush somehow. I picked it up. All right, now that we have that pinky wash on, and it's a little bit drier here because I picked up water and color, so I hope that that stays lighter. I'm just going to start to introduce a bunch of paint around the edges. And I'm working on keeping my edges as crisp as I can. I'll rinse off my brush, and I'm going to start to blend this darker red in. And I did this wet on wet. So the first layer I put down, you don't always have to do wet on wet on just water. So I put the first layer down, it was still wet. And you can see I'm leaving little bits lighter. And then before that layer was dry of the light pink color, I went and added this darker red around the edges. I'm going to do a big swoop through here of even darker color. So I'm trying to keep this the lightest. This is like a medium lightness. Let's switch to a smaller brush now. Size 6. So now there's nothing on my brush. I don't really have any water. It's slightly damp, but I got rid of most of the water on the paper towel. And I'm just blending between the gradients. So this medium tone between this darker tone, maybe pulling out some color in a few spots so that we get this lovely kind of sheen on it. And then I'm also going to take a little Payne's Gray and a little more Alizarin Crimson and make this really dark kind of cherry red. I'm going to add one more layer wet on wet around the edge. It's more wet on damp now as my bulb starts to dry, and I'm just going to work through that to make sure the edges stay soft. But look how much more sheen that it gives when you go even darker. Not really dark on all the areas. I'm still going to keep this middle section pretty medium toned. I'm not going to bring that extra dark color in there. There we go. And I'm going to leave that the way it is. I'm going to work on, we'll go back and we'll just do this side here with the other brown, with a darker brown color. While that dries a little bit, and then we'll do our little connector. So putting in this side, this brush is not the best. I really need to replace it. The tip of it is not great, but it's still got some life in her, so. All right, so that's some differentiation between the two sides. Darker, we'll do darker over here as well. And then while we're at it, let's take some Payne's Gray, water it way, way down, and more than that. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my bigger brush, get it nice and clean. And just pull out that shadow. We can even do a more specific darker shadow, like right under the bulb. All right, let's just do our little piece at the top. Now you could do this just using Payne's Gray. I think I'm going to go back to my rigger brush because I'm going to keep this really tiny. You could also do something with yellow, like a gold color in there. I'm just going to make it like silver. So I'm going to use Payne's Gray to just paint in like the shadowy crimped parts in between. You know, we'll give it a little shadow down here so it's darker. And the little loop. Okay. So I gave it a little shadow on the side, but I also have to put some darker crimping in there, even though that is a shadow. You might want to let it dry and then add even darker little crimpings in the shadowy area, and little wrinkles. But there we go, our cute little Charlie Brown Christmas tree. Isn't he adorable? So thank you for joining me. This one was fun. Definitely play around. You could do a lot of things with the basic techniques that we learned, whether that is using this lovely little script liner rigger brush. If you don't have one of these yet and you are new to watercolor, I highly recommend putting one of these on your holiday wish list. I think you will be very happy with it, or just go out and get one for yourself too. But yeah, this can really help with things like pine and really thin things like this little string here too, and the little crimps in there. So, all right, don't forget to check out the description for links to supplies and materials. Like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already and you're new here. And I can't wait to see you for our next page in our watercolor journals. Take care, y'all. Happy painting.